Hello, I'm Mauro Guillén. I'm a professor at the Wharton School. Today is April 6th, 2020, and I'm having a conversation with Rosana Ramos Velita, who is joining me from New York. He's the chairman of Caja Rural Los Andes in Peru. He's a Wharton and Lauder alum. He's the chair of the Wharton Executive Board for Latin America and also a member of the Lauder Institute Board of Governors. Rosana, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Mauro, for having me, and thank you for this wonderful initiative.
Thank you. So the first question, I think, has to be about Peru. So your bank, Caja Rural Los Andes,
Yes.
is located in mostly the highlands of Peru. Can you tell us a little bit about what's the situation there?
Yes. The situation in Peru is, I would say, dire a little bit. Peru is still an emerging country, so the health system is extremely weak. But the government has taken very drastic measures almost immediately. So we are battling through many cases, death, uncertainty, but I do see a very executive government taking leadership in terms of containing this terrible pandemic. And in particular, in the remote areas, for example, Puno, where Caja Los Andes is headquartered, it's a remote area. It's, at 14,000 feet above sea level, right on Lake Titicaca. And so far, there have been no cases, but Peru is still beginning to test. But that's sort of good news. Nevertheless, the whole country is taking very, very strict measures of social distancing and isolating people, enforced by the government, the army, the police. So I think it's a very good, straightforward emergency technique. And now it's on its third week of state of emergency, curfews, and I believe the numbers are beginning to show that it's working for a country like Peru, where health systems are very weak.
Okay. You're the chairman of Caja Rural Los Andes. Tell us first a little bit about what is it that Caja does, and then tell us about how you're adapting to the crisis.
Yes. Caja Los Andes focuses on serving rural micro-entrepreneurs, and we are a social impact investment company. So we generate profits. We're a private bank. However, we do serve a population that's always been underserved. And the first thing that we're doing is taking care of our employees. We have over 1,000 employees. The government has decided that banking is a critical industry. So in theory, we're all working, but at a minimum level and with a lot of the health precautions. But our model is based on going and visiting communities, going and actually bringing cash to the clients. That's how the loans are dispersed and how clients pay back. And right now, none of that is really possible. Even if we wanted to go out there to visit clients, it would be a little dangerous even for our team. So our model is really being challenged. Now, the overall financial impact, as in the rest of the world, is really extreme, and for smaller banks, more so. But the government is beginning to really understand that you need to bring liquidity and take some measurements so that especially the financial companies that serve the majority of the population in Peru can have access eventually to loans and feel some sort of safety in terms of an economy that eventually will take some sort of shape. And the economy in just about every Latin America, but in particular in Peru, is really based on a day-to-day entrepreneur, right? 60% or more of the Peruvian economy is what we call the informal economy, right? So our clients who milk the cows and gather the milk and go a few kilometers and they sell the milk or make cheese and they produce a lot of food that way. But if they don't do this for a couple of days, they actually have no income and therefore cannot pay our loans and vice versa. So that system of what the informal economy means, it's right now getting a lot of attention. It's being challenged because it's not quite sustainable, but at the same time, that is the base of the pyramid, and the government has to act because, as always, when this crisis occur, the poorest are the most affected, and that's beginning to really, I think, be seen around the world, that income gap divide.
Yeah, so how many customers or clients does Caja have in Peru?
Yeah, we have 85,000 microcredit clients and 86,000 deposit savings clients. There's an overlap of around 10-15% between those two numbers or populations, but overall we're close to over 150,000 clients all across Peru. And again, a lot of these clients were served physically. So that is now really what we're thinking about. Okay, what's the new model for microfinance?
Yeah, so in other words, that microfinance, and in particular your bank, has always been based on personal relationships.
Yes.
And now social distancing requires a new business model. So are you using technology, or how are you trying to bridge the gap?
Yes, we had already had a very robust plan to really go into I would say, the use of digital technologies to gather information about our clients and create products for them. That's one part that we are accelerating right now. But the second part, we invested in a digital wallet platform. So right now, it's crucial, and we're beginning to really, really use it. It was sort of in a pilot program, and people really was very interesting. They didn't like to exchange, using the technology because they were so accustomed to using cash. But now, I mean, you cannot, do a coronavirus test on a dirty, bill, right? So having this platform is now a great solution. So in the last 2 weeks, we've really pushed it, and our team has really reacted. So we're beginning to see a lot of usage, and that's one solution.
I see. So you're joining us today from Manhattan, I take it,
yes.
In New York City. And you, prior to launching this social enterprise in Peru, you had a long career in banking in New York.
Yes.
How do you see life in the city changing as a result of this pandemic, even after, we managed to overcome it?
Yeah, I think it's really Mauro, a game changer. We've gone through so many crises, financial crises in New York, and September 11th, when my husband and I were both working on Wall Street. But this is so different and really profound. I think with the potential also of technology today, we're going to really see income inequality at extents that we hadn't seen before here in the city. We see the numbers where the poorest areas in Manhattan are the most affected, and it makes sense. Those are the people who serve a lot of us. So I think that realization is going to cause a lot of social and economic upheaval and changes. When you go to try to get some groceries today, that cashier is protected, but is working there because she has to. And the wages that they receive are just not, I think, at a human level of responsibility anymore. And we have to change that. I think it's really a call to action as well. Income inequality is very stark right now. You see it, and it's also the majority are Latino and other racial minorities who are, working the front lines. And it's very vivid. We live with that, in Manhattan and in the big cities, your servers, delivery people, all the wonderful restaurants that we used to go to are really the backbones, are immigrants and minorities. And today they are receiving the brunt of this epidemic, and we are all watching it. So that has to change. That's how I think really it's going to be different.
Yes, let's hope, of course, that attitudes by some people towards immigrants change, knowing that, as you were saying, between 30 and 45% of some healthcare occupations are made of immigrants to the United States. Those are nurses, doctors, and of course also the other people who work at hospitals, who clean, who organize things, who stock the hospitals, and so on and so forth. So this was Rosana Ramos Revelita, Chairman of Caja Rural Los Andes, joining us from New York. Rosana, thank you so much for having this conversation with me today, and please stay safe.